Let's talk a little bit of hockey. Let's talk about a great event on the Montreal schedule every year, because the 2025 edition of C2 Montreal takes place next week, May 20th through 22nd. If you haven't been, by the way, and I've gone a couple of years. I've been able to moderate some panels, and I've taken part a few times in C2. It's really an event that focuses on actionable change. Business leaders, innovators, decision makers gather from across the globe in Montreal once a year. Let's go to one of those innovators. She's Kim Davis, Senior Executive Vice President over at the National Hockey League. Kim, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you.
So at the National Hockey League, social impact, growth initiatives, legislative affairs. Can I ask you about your pathway? You've been at the National Hockey League for quite some time now. How'd you end up working for the NHL?
Well, this is my 7th season with the NHL after spending over 30 years in financial services and consulting. So it's sort of new to the landscape of sport and entertainment. My pathway came through my consulting assignment with the NHL. I had a chance to meet Commissioner Bettman. I was at the time that the league was experiencing its centennial, and Gary was thinking about what the next 100 years of hockey needed to look like, and thought it would be smart to bring someone in who had experience outside of hockey to understand how culture and growing the game will impact the future of our sport.
And on that front, right, I would imagine it's pretty interesting if you're the NHL, you want to try and grow the game. And so much of the world doesn't have ice, doesn't have winter. Of course, for the Canadian experience, there's a reason why Canadians are hockey mad. It's because we have 2 seasons. We have a little bit of summer, and then we have hockey season, right?
Right.
So how do you tackle that? Tell me about some of the challenges you have when it comes to growth in the NHL.
Well, I don't think of them as challenges. I see them as opportunity. I talk about this notion of many roads leading to fandom. And when you think about the future of our sport, think about a place like Las Vegas. When the Golden Knights came there were only 2 sheets of ice in the entire state. And through things like street and ball hockey, and through deepening trust and building relationships, that's how the Golden Knights were able to deliver long-term value to the sport. So there are many roads that lead to fandom. And yes, ice is an important part of the game, but there are many other on-ramps to become hockey fans and to fall in love with the sport.
You've been recognized many, many times. The one on the list of the Sportsnet's list of the 25 most powerful women in sports, among a lot of your honors here. How is it now? 7 years in, how is that experience working? Entering the sports world. How's that experience been?
I see this industry very similar to other industries that I've been in, and that is thinking in new and different ways around the ways in which we can grow our sport. I'm a believer that where hockey grows, business follows. And so focusing on things like building access in our fandom pipeline through youth participation, and again, both on and off the ice, expanding that emotional connection and cultural relevancy. You look at places like Montreal and all across Canada, the way new Canadians are helping to build a future of the country. These are the ways in which we have to think about growth. What are the cohorts, what are the attributes of the future? It's going to be young, female, multicultural, tech-savvy, and purpose-driven. And if we keep keenly focused on those attributes and those cohorts, I think we'll grow our sport, and I'm excited to be part of that.
So you're coming to Montreal next week to participate in C2. What's the message that, you just had a great, wonderful message you just gave our listeners. Is that much of what you'll be discussing next week in Montreal?
That is a lot of what I'll be talking about. The idea that we have to, if we want new outcomes, we have to have new inputs. And the way we have to think about the sport, yes, we have to maintain that history and that great culture of the sport of hockey that has been so resident for the past almost 110 years. But we also have to think about how do we bring new fans, people that don't have that history and they don't have that legacy, a generational legacy in our sport. How do we make sure that we win in a very, very, very tight marketplace of sports and entertainment. Those are the things that I'll be talking about next week.
Wrapping up with Kim Davis, Senior Executive Vice President over at the National Hockey League. She'll be in town next week for C2 Montreal. You know, you brought up Las Vegas, right? And let me tell you, Kim, here in Montreal, we haven't had a Stanley Cup in far too long, and we're a city that prides itself on Stanley Cups, and we're so envious of a team like Las Vegas coming into the league, winning a Stanley Cup. I know winning gets fans, right? Is what else do you need in order to bring that? As you look across the league in other cities, what else should we be looking at as, great examples of how teams have brought in new generations of fans?
Building community trust and civic engagement. I think that is something that we often overlook. That is one of the best ways to build emotional connection and cultural relevancy, particularly in new markets, but also in mature markets that are continuing to grow. So I think, yes, focusing on winning, of course, that's what sport is about. But at the end of the day, to build long-term value creation for all of our stakeholders, we deepen trust through community and civic engagement as an important element of growth.
I got to ask you, how is it working? I imagine at the National Hockey League, tons of Canadians, right? Like tons of Canadians in those hallways, in the offices there. How is it working with so many Canadians?
I love it. I don't see any difference in working with Canadians.
Well, that's
You're
good to know.
Put me in a booby trap.
That's great. What's the next big opportunity for the National Hockey League, you think?
I think the next big opportunity is for us to think about markets where we don't currently have teams. How do we grow in markets that are growing demographically, but we may not currently have NHL teams? And how do we partner with other parts of the ecosystem like the AHL and the ECHL in helping to build out those new markets all across North America and obviously globally as well?
Now, of course, for our audience, I think a lot of our audience are looking a couple hours north and Quebec City. They've wanted a team for so long. We feel sorry for them at times, right? Because they've got a building and no team. But when you talk about that, are you more talking about Kansas City, Houston, other places like that in the States, Atlanta once again? Is that where the focus is for the NHL right now?
I think the focus is in markets all across North America and internationally, not just the U.S. And I don't think that there's any particular focus on those cities that you talked about over any others. I think it's where opportunity lies and where growth can survive.
Kim, have you been to Montreal, either for hockey or something else?
I have been to Montreal many times, and I actually have relatives in Montreal, so I'm looking forward to visiting with them next week. Oh,
that's wonderful, Kim. Listen, enjoy your time at C2 Montreal, and thanks for spending some time with our listeners this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Kim Davis there, Senior Executive Vice President at the National Hockey League.